You don't have to be a millennial to be socially savvy. We believe anyone can join Generation Social Media, and your journey starts now. This is the Generation Social Media Podcast by Chatterkick.
Hey guys, it's Kelsey Martin, and today we're going to be talking about TikTok, and specifically, should you be thinking about TikTok, or what should you be thinking about TikTok if you are in the B2B industry? I have Beth Trejo, the one and only CEO from Chatterkick. I'm super excited to be back on the podcast because I missed being on the podcast. But I want to talk to you about the B2B industry specifically. So tell me your thoughts on this industry and their approach and to TikTok.
Yeah. So I love this topic because and one of the reasons we started this podcast was to try to get people to think differently about social media, to stop thinking about it in categories of like, well, I'm not trying to hit young people, so I don't want to go on that young person's platform, and really not think of the social media platforms as the solution, because the second you think about that is the second they're not going to work the way you want it to. And really just think about them as a communication tool. The same way that we thought about telephones in the past are now computers in your hands, right? So really trying to figure out not only your audience, but the mindset, the thought process, all of that. And I'm not going to come and say like every B2B company needs to be on TikTok. But one of the things that I think is amazing about this B2B space, and I'm talking about regardless if you are in a software or a product world or a service, but the amount of innovation that is happening as providers to other businesses is amazing. And I think that sometimes as we sell directly to businesses as at Chatterkick, I think sometimes we get into this like visual of these customers in our head as just like these little business people all around us, right? They're in their little suits and ties, but geez, they're not on XYZ platform, or they're not doing this. And I think that we just need to take that notion, that general concept of B2B, and really flip it as person to person, because these business people are not just business people. They're moms, they're fathers, they're brothers, they're sports enthusiasts. They're all these different types of facets. Like, we're multifaceted people. And we just need to be thinking in those realms and not just in the business sense.
Right. And in the same token, decision makers, whether they're like, I'm literally at the office right now, I am both on social and like researching stuff and like looking at things for our business, but I'm also obviously looking for at personal things when I'm not here, like when I am at home. And so it's an extension of the business, but I'm still like an individual human being. I wish there were two separate news feeds for that, just for my personal sake, but they're not. We're all just one human being.
Yeah. And I think that just those lines in the last 10 years have become more and more blurry, and I don't anticipate that changing. But kind of bringing it back. So these businesses are extremely innovative. They're thinking about what's next. I'm a visionary of what's coming up in 5-10 years. And as we talk about communication and marketing, we need to match that mindset of innovation, right? So like, let's just say we know we're talking to innovative people. We know innovation and visionary future planning is important to them. And so the reason why TikTok needs to be on your at least observe list, it doesn't need to be on an act or an attack mentality, but you need to at least be thinking about what is happening on this platform. And the reason why TikTok is important to everybody right now is just it's bleeding into culture and lifestyles of all different age sets and demographics in ways that only the big platforms have really done. There's been a lot of niche platforms out there that have just kind of like bubbled up and then fizzled, bubbled up and fizzled. But TikTok is not. It's bubbling in every direction. And regardless if we like it or not, if you're in business, you need to at least take notice of what's happening, how it works, who's interacting and reacting on it. And is there these little micro communities forming that may be your target audience.
I love
And
that. But can I play not devil's advocate, but just like a different perspective or question on this? Like what I hear you saying is like when you're approaching any platform, but specifically, obviously, we're talking about TikTok, is to not think about the bucket of users that are on the platform. Like don't get distracted by like who is on that platform. Like I do believe that you need to find the people that are most relevant to your business, but what you're saying is they're on multiple channels and they're definitely on TikTok. But what I also hear you saying is like focus on the creative more than the platform. But sometimes as a business, what I hear happening is like, well, we would never make content like that. Like that's not us. So
Right.
where like what's your response to that of like, you know, TikTok was Musically. So a lot of people see just like the wildest TikToks that go viral because they are bleeding over into other platforms. They're being shared on every platform. What's your response to businesses who say like that's not the type of content that we would make?
So I think what people need to think about, the first like reaction to us when we're trying to find our audience or our customers or our prospects is we think about, if I'm selling social media, I'm going to find people who use social media. If I'm selling a manufacturing part that is used in welding, I'm going to go find people talking about welding. That's the obvious. You need to go next to the obvious. So if your core, let's pretend that manufacturing company and their audience is really technical and mechanical and they're engineer focused, right? So what they need to be looking at on TikTok is what's happening in that space. So are there DIY grill masters out there that are about the same age demographic? They're working with their hands. They're in that same space. They could either be their employees or their customers, and understand what's happening in their world and from their perspective, because you'll learn a lot about what your audience wants across the platforms just by kind of peeking in. You don't have to create a TikTok account for your business. You don't need to do anything except just observe and learn.
So you're saying use it as a research tool to
use it as a
find
research tool.
interests, really.
Yes. And don't just think of the most obvious. Think about, okay, I'm going to use this example too. So if you're in the B2B space and you know that your customers are avid fishermen and they love, like, that's just a common thing. For work, you organize a fishing trip every year, and when you do Christmas gifts, that's what you give them. That's where you want to be looking at those hashtags and searching out what's happening in the fishing world, that people that are avid fishermen. So again, you really feel like you understand not just the business component of your audience, but the personal things that are important to them. And you'd be surprised at how you can just kind of like take some of those things that are quickly going viral in those little micro communities, put it on your other platforms, and it will work.
Right. I mean, this kind of goes back to when you're thinking about approaching or even researching content, it's like forget the sales posts and think about the relationships and the interest and how you're going to build your own community. Like, yes, those guys who I don't remember what industry you said for the fishing, like, yes, while they're at the office, they're all talking about their sales on like this piece of equipment. But like the second the meeting is over, while they're walking back to their desks, they're talking about their fishing trip. Like, and it still happens in the office. It's those personal moments that are included in your community, but not specifically about business.
Yeah.
One thing, I was a TikTok hater until recently. I never really got on Snapchat. And so I was just like, this is going to be another Snapchat. And then I saw a lot of the content being shared into other platforms. And I was like, this is really funny, like better than Vine. And I thought Vine had really great content. So I got on the platform, but I'm not going to lie, I'm still just a lurker. I haven't not posted one single thing yet. I have a lot of ideas, but I haven't posted anything. The amount of micro communities, like what you're calling the micro communities, it's really insane to me how niche a lot of these like communities have gotten, and that just regular random people have small countries following them. They have like 1.2 million
Right.
followers, and it's just some random girl from South Dakota who just talks about, I don't know, her pool that she's restoring.
Right.
It's really weird, like very, very, very niche.
Yeah, I think, if you are a business owner and you are like, okay, Beth, I hear you. Like, I do not know what to do next. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to download the TikTok app. It is an app on your phone. You need to download it, create an account for yourself, a personal account. Just follow the prompts. It'll take you through the step process. And then what I want you to do is I want you to only follow. It's kind of like Instagram where there's like follow and following, right? There's kind of those two sides of the coin. And I want you to follow a couple of things that you think are funny. So just kind of go scroll through. And if you think it's entertaining, funny, or valuable, just follow. Only start with like 5, just so you can kind of get a feel for it.
Like content that interests you personally.
You need to like it yourself before you really can get through the barriers of how you can use it for your business. I'm a huge believer of that because I think so many people hate Facebook because they have such a bad experience personally because they don't know how to actually adjust their settings to get rid of some of that noise and people that make them angry. And I think that we all have that responsibility on our own personal accounts to make it a wonderful and a healthy experience. And we have to take ownership of that. And so I think starting out a new platform, that you really have the opportunity to start where you want to start. Don't just follow everybody from high school, right? Just follow topics that really interest you. And a couple things that I don't know if that I found interesting and helpful, that I don't know, it may be relatable, but I love cooking. I love food. I love making cocktails. And I love TikTok because there's this huge community of chefs to everyday cooks to bartenders. And if you're interested in any of those things, those are really good places to start. There's some cool cocktails. Like I said, there's some really awesome chefs that are doing really quick meals. And so that's an easy topic that you could get started with. And then another one is if you're in the Midwest and you're listening to this in the Midwest, there's a lot of Midwest humor that is really easy to, it's very broad and it's funny and it's quick. So that's another kind of good topic to start with. And then I'm trying to think of a couple other, do you have any other ones that you really think could be valuable?
Well, yes and no. I can never think of like the handles off the top of my head for like specific people either, but I've been extremely impressed with TikTok's like For You algorithm because I don't post at all. So I'm not giving them any information. And I also don't like anything either because I don't want them to come back to my empty profile. So all I'm doing is watching. And so I've recently, in the last 2 weeks, have gotten a ton of South Dakota content and Omaha. There's like this one photographer in Omaha that says like, if you're in the Omaha area, these are the best places to take photographs, or like, here's a place that you didn't know exists. And he like tours different things in Omaha, but they're very, very, very specific to like these communities, which blew my mind because I was like, I never put that I'm here. I don't have my geolocations on. It's just based off of the videos that I've watched.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I agree. And the one thing to be cautious about if you're doing that and you're not kind of adding new interest to the mix, like now, because I've been watching so many
it's like all you get.
cooking videos, that's all I get. But another one that I was just thinking of is there's some like technology hacks or iPhone hacks that they're not actual hacks, but it's kind of like tips
things you didn't know
about your phone. And there's so many of those that I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so valuable. Like how many seconds they are. And I'm like, wow, I did not know you could do that. So
yeah, I do think like following people in your For You that you think make interesting content, but then going and searching those hashtags or even using like the Discover, do they call it Discover? The Discover page.
It's like a little magnifying glass.
Yeah, and clicking through some of the like trending topics, or, even as a business, you could see the types of brands that have been doing like crazy promotions are not the brands that I would think of, like Armor All, and like that wasn't one. It was like Arm & Hammer.
There's a couple weed killers and some like lawn and garden category stuff happening in there.
Right. But you could see how other businesses who, you would not think like, of course you would think like Coca-Cola, Nike, you would think that all of those guys would be on there, but it's interesting to see other industries break into that platform and how they're approaching content. And I'm like, oh, I see that. Like that's really good. I like that a lot. And a lot of it has to do with you got to find that personality or personalities that are willing to make content for you and let them go. Just
Yeah.
like, give them guardrails and slap their wrists if they get a little too crazy. You can always delete it, but just like let them be the representative.
Yeah, I really think that there is so much cool like topics, and you want to get very, very specific. But you'd be surprised at what you can kind of do and build just within the app and learn it, like figure it out. Let your kids help you with it if you're confused or don't know where to start. But I do think that one of the things that you need to think about as a business owner, just as you're thinking about how you're going to build your business in 5 years, is what technologies do you need to start the foundation today so that you can be relevant in the next year, 2 years, 3 years? And just, I'm not saying that TikTok's going to be around for 10 years, but you never know. I mean, I remember when I was young in my career fighting that the business that I was working in really needed a Facebook page. Like, it was so important. And I was really passionate about it. And like, thinking back on that now, that business has had a Facebook page for 10 years. And they've had a huge opportunity to leverage that platform. And it wasn't getting any ROI at that point. I mean, there was no business connection. And it was time and it was work. But it really does build that foundation so that you can leverage not only the platform, but what you learn and the way that you can like adjust and be agile in technology, because they're communication channels, entertainment channels.
So our advice really for B2B in approaching TikTok is step one, get in there, start doing research and seeing the type of content, who's on there, what they're doing, and let that influence you in either the way that you're thinking and approaching your content on your other platforms, the type of content that's interesting. Because like you said, TikTok is breaking cultural boundaries and setting the pace for what types of content people are finding entertaining and interesting. It is setting the tone for content on other platforms. It's completely reshaping the music industry. It is reshaping. I'm sure we'll see it in commercials. I think we already have. Same as Snapchat. So thinking about ways that you can create content that look like TikTok content on other platforms, or literally creating TikTok content on your page and using that as TikTok and downloading it and posting it on your other platforms too. So there's kind of different approaches to this. Is there anything that you feel like we missed specifically for B2B?
I think the biggest thing is just like, don't just look for the obvious. Think about your audience and what they care about. So if you are in the telecom industry and you have service techs going out every single day, like, is weather important to them? If it is, then that could be a fun take on what TikTok looks like in your organization.
Right. It's definitely, I definitely think, similar to Instagram and even Snapchat, it's like the behind the scenes things. But I think where businesses get stuck on this topic for creating content anyways, it's like the most entertaining things. I'm just thinking about like the construction industry, because that industry is notorious for having crazy pranks, weird things that they're doing in between shifts. And as a business, I'm like, I don't want that stuff being out there. I like don't want them to see my crews like dumping water on each other and like pulling these weird pranks. Like, that's a terrifying standpoint. So how do you draw that line or encourage content in between the scenes without offending people, making sure that you still have like a reputation that's credible?
Yeah, I would say give your team assignments. Like, what is the assignment? Okay. If your assignment is to entertain and your primary topic is, let's say, Midwest weather, right? That's something that is a very connective thing. Like, people in the Midwest always make fun of the weather, and we always talk about the weather. And so if that is the assignment for, I'm using a telecom company, if that's the assignment, give them the three, every single piece of content, check these three things. Are we being safe? And is there anything in the video that shows that we're not being safe? are we representing ourselves well in the company? We can have fun and show entertainment, but
Be
like,
relatable, but
yes,
don't be
but
offensive.
right, but don't offend them. And is there anything proprietary in the background, or are we saying anything that we shouldn't? If you just give like people just a little bit of guardrails, in most cases, you're going to have a positive outcome.
Right. I always think if you've seen a TikTok that you really like, always bring that as an example. If you're like this, just giving visuals really helps people like define those guides a little
Yep.
bit better.
Awesome. If you are a B2B, or if you're B2C, or as we are
You
now,
just want to get on TikTok.
I
We
just,
were like really hot. I mean, we still talk about Facebook a lot, but again, someone who's converted into a TikTok lover, get on the app. I'm just going to apologize that you're probably going to go down a TikTok hole and you're going to be on there for like
yeah,
a
it's
couple of
addictive.
hours and you're going to get that, whoa, you've been scrolling way too long message. But it's a really fun platform.
Yeah, I agree. And if you need any actual specific people to follow, some of our favorites, you can definitely reach out to us at Chatterkick, and we will curate the top ones that at least are keeping us entertained.
Yeah, I'll put a list on this episode on generationsocialmediapodcast.com. I will put our list on this episode description on that website. So you can check them out there and we'll link them all out.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Kelsey. This was fun.
Yep. See ya.